You last of these four for this first part because you talk about yourself as a sort of social technologist. You look at social impacts, and it's often forgotten that technology of itself isn't necessarily useful. I think you mentioned to me that, for example, Google Glass, which was the next big thing last year, you can now get them very cheap on eBay because it simply hasn't taken off. So what are some of the examples where technology and digital change has been embraced, and perhaps some of the ones where it hasn't, and why is that?
Well, let's start, Charles, with the ones that haven't taken off, contrary to predictions. And your point is important. We need to say that technology is not destiny. So it's every time there's a shift in technology, there's a counter shift in terms of human reaction and in terms of how human beings see that technology, good or bad. And it's the synergy between shift and counter shift that produces the new status quo that we're talking about here today. And within that, there are three things that I think shape that counter shift, that human response. One is ethics. One is generational change, which is a big subject of investigation for us. And the third one is emotion. And I think when you look at Google Glass, and the reason you can buy it so cheaply on eBay right now, along with all of its derivative copies, is that there was no human connection. There was no affection, if you will. You know, Jobs used to talk about people feeling affectionate towards the iPhone. And we're so in love with our smartphones, we don't see any reason to shift at this time to things like augmented reality. In fact, you could say the same of wearables generally. This was supposed to be the year of the wearable. Yeah. But aside from a few health tracking apps, wearables are pretty much nowhere to be seen. There's not yet any unique value add to those things. Another example, I think, is ambient computing, which is the sort of cloud-connected computing that allows you to control a smart office or a smart home. So you've got Amazon's Echo machine that sits in the corner. You speak to it, it gives you different heating and lighting in your home. It'll give you the news, the stock reports, whatever. Again, no emotional connection, no sense of we really need this.
Because British Gas has done quite well in the UK with its Hive product, which lets you remotely control your heating and so on.
Yes, but it doesn't use speech to do that. Amazon's Echo uses speech. So you can use a tablet to do this.
Oh, I see. So ambient requires a sort of it's always listening to you.
Exactly, right. Another example would be 3D printing, additive manufacturing. There have been some breakthroughs in terms of design. We use additive manufacturing to help design prosthetics, to help design furniture and streets and cars and buildings. But in terms of business users and consumer users, it hasn't taken off. There's no unique value add, so there's no human emotional connection. On the other side of the equation, technologies that have been embraced, social media. This has very much been a year of social media. It's almost so ho-hum now, we don't talk about it. But it's still evolving very quickly. We've seen at the end of last year the emergence of what I call virtual social media, which is, or some people call it sociable media, where you take an Oculus Rift or Cardboard, in Google's case, type of artificial reality machine, hook it up to your smartphone, and you're able to put your avatar in 3D space with all your friends. And through speech communication alone, all of the navigation is done through head movements. This is a new type of social media. That has taken off, or will take off in the year ahead, but certainly has begun in the last year. As has the fact that business, and some of our friends here today I'm sure would be in this camp, have started to use social media as a primary form of communication internally and with customers and clients. So much time has been wasted on email. A study 2 years ago in the UK found that major CEOs were losing productivity simply because we were processing 50 emails a day from our colleagues alone. So Twitter now has cut its limit from 140. It's enlarged to allow...
It's talking about enlarging it, yes.
Yeah, and I think it's trying to fill some of the space that email used to fill. So social media has expanded greatly, again, partly because there is an emotional commitment. It's about relationship, it's about keeping in touch with people. For customers, it's about what I call I-solutions, being part of the company, not just a consumer, having a voice into the procedure, into the company, into the product and the service. So I think it's about, in that sense, about emotional connection to some degree.
So for companies that are looking to change, and also companies which are looking to listen to their customers and change along with them, then it's about finding where the emotional, bringing the employees along in an emotional way, sort of getting them to be up with it, and also to find a way to emotionally connect with the customers.
Yeah, it's essentially, and I don't mean to be too simplistic, but it's essentially about remembering that technology is a servant to human need, human aspiration. And in a sense, a company only has value to the degree that it adds value to people. And so technology has to serve that. Sometimes I think in our strategizing about technology, we're talking purely about technology and what is possible and benchmarking with other companies, which, by the way, I think is the death of innovation. Benchmark is the death of innovation.
Benchmarking in what way?
Because benchmarking in its bottom line, I mean, nobody wants to reinvent the wheel, so there's that value. But if we're not careful, we end up doing simply what everybody else is doing, instead of trying to find the breakthrough, trying to find something new and fresh and running against the stream. I mentioned Steve Jobs, he was a good example of that at times. And there are others I could think of. I think it's worth remembering, though, always when we're strategizing, that the most important factor is the customer, the human being, not even customer, the human being, and what that human being will find valuable. Right. Not always easy to predict, but it's certainly worth thinking about.